Welcome to the Warehouse 15 podcast, and it is personal. And I am joined again by my co-host and colleagues and friends in armor, friends in life, and friends and warriors in martial arts. We got Coach Juan Moreno.
Yo.
And Coach TJ Jennings. TJ Jennings, how you guys doing today?
Good. TJ Jennings. Territory. Just call me TJ, aka TJ. Coach
All right.
TJ.
So we're better than DJ. All right. So we've been having a lot of different conversations. By the way, we're trying a new platform today. So tell us if you like the way it sounds or the way it feels, and more importantly, the way it looks. Well, yeah, I know. Listen, I'm looking at your Batman, Batgirl, Bat Joker poster in the back. It looks good. Looks better than last week.
I like the name update too, sir. Grandmaster Disaster. Better than,
I changed my name for today.
He's not Nico's dead right now at the moment. He's Grandmaster Disaster.
Grandmaster of Disaster. All right. Well, listen, we got a lot we want to get to today, but I'm going to start off today. Who's going to start off for us today?
What's up? Why don't we start with TJ first? Like, how was your weekend or what's going on?
It was good. I went down to a quick update. I got a movie update for you too. Matter of fact, I went down to DMV Open. First time I've been back in Virginia for a tournament, and I got to I had like 5 or 6 kids go, so just do the local tournament thing this weekend. It was pretty intense environment, a little bit smaller space, a lot of good action, a lot of interesting things, but fun nevertheless. So long weekend. It was on a Sunday, but good.
Tournament on Sunday?
Tournament on Sunday, like for the local, yeah. I flew in Saturday. Tournament was on Sunday. Got done around 9 p.m. It was a pretty long day. A lot of decent talent from around the area though, so it was good. It was good to be in that environment again, and I got to see my parents as well, so it's always fun.
Coach Moreno?
I had a great weekend. Actually, I stayed home this weekend. I went to one of my athletes' quince, which is a young lady's 15th birthday, kind of going into adulthood, womanhood, if you will, in the Latin community, in the Latin culture. So that was pretty cool to witness that. And then on Sunday, one of my good friends, Ruben Gallon, he was a national team athlete back in the day. He's like my brother. His grandmother turned 100 years old. I actually posted something on social media and I said, I've done a lot of things in my life, a lot of cool things that I think about, but I've never been to somebody's 100th birthday. And man, I tell you what, I just sat back there and watched everybody. There's one lady I was talking to. She was in her mid 80s. She just got back from Thailand. I thought she was like 65, 70 max. Just her energy. And I was like, it was amazing. And they're cute. Most of the people there were of Cuban descent. So there was some great food, great music, people dancing. It was really cool to be a part of. So I had a fun time with my family and my friend's family as well. So that's pretty cool. But I'm curious to talk a little bit about this tournament because I want to talk about maybe some athletes moving and there's some, we talked about different levels of coaches last week. Remember, we were talking about, I don't think there's any shame in being a senior coach or a junior coach or a cadet coach. If you're good, you're good. And I think some people need to feel a little bit more comfortable, confident that their line happens to be here. Not many people can be good in the whole spectrum, and that's not a bad thing. But I like to talk about some athletes kind of changing, and maybe even like refereeing, kind of officiating from high level to all the way down to the low levels. But I don't know if that sounds like a good topic or not. But
all right, yeah, I'll start on that. I got a question. So speaking when you talk about like refereeing and like I guess let's say gameplay, in general. Do you find that the value for our local level referees would mirror or look like the value of like a AU basketball or like a youth basketball team, soccer team? Like, do you think that we have a lot of, I don't know, I always feel like we got issues within our thing,
Your son, I think it's a perfect test. Your son plays high school level soccer. Let's just say that because he's in high school. Like, and obviously you don't know about pro level soccer officiating, but like when you go to your son's events, generally speaking, do you think that the officiating is at a decent level? Come on, there's always going to be calls that we think are weird, but do you feel like there's blatant incompetency at that level?
No, I mean, my son plays MLS Next, which is a very high level of soccer. So if you were looking at it in terms of a national sport organization, um, my son's at the qualifier level, let's say, of refereeing and participation. So the difference, though, is that the MLS Next referees are curated and trained and given games based upon their ability, and so the refereeing's pretty standard, and the understanding of the game is very sophisticated. So we don't suffer. Although, depending on the day, the parents might think differently on different calls.
Of course.
But in general, the referees, first of all, are fit because they got to run for 90 minutes.
90 minutes.
And, they are astute.
Do you think
and
they're all
pretty much-
volunteers? Do you think they're all volunteers though? Like I know we have a lot of volunteer referees. We get guys that understand the rules to a certain level. And we allow them to referee. I guess I'm asking not at the qualifying levels when you're being looked at or scouted, but more so like if you showed up on a Saturday to a local level event. Like, do you think they're, like I said, they're boys soccer team or girls soccer team or basketball team? Do you think they have that many issues throughout the game? The clock not getting started on time, all the little stuff that we deal with.
All the referees are paid. They're not paid a lot of money, but they're paid. They're trained and paid. Even whatever the sum is, it's not a tremendous amount of money. They are, depending upon the level of play. So my son started at AYSO, which is basically, local tournament. Then he went to club level, which is higher. And then he went now to MLS Next. And this weekend we're at Yale for a prospect camp, right? So that's been his journey. Along the way, those referees are trained. They all understand the rules. They all understand how it works. And they, for the most part, all the control of it is in the center referee's hands.
No, for me, listen, TJ, I would sit there and listen, I've been to, I'm going to say low level, young level, like wrestling tournaments and jiu-jitsu tournaments. And for sure, baseball, basketball, soccer, my whole life. Man, I know they're volunteers, I've been to those games where those kids are 5 and 6 years old and, there's a high school kid refereeing and, some dads or coaches like, come on, that was a bad call, this and that. Yeah. But I know where you're going with this. And I feel like we could do better. I know they're volunteers, local tournaments, trying to get people in, but, sometimes you get these pretty good divisions, let's say senior, maybe high level junior, and you get these, for lack of a better term, local referees that they're not sophisticated enough to deal with the coaches and the athletes. You know what I'm saying? They're the third lowest level person in the ring, right? The athletes are higher, the coaches are higher, and then you got this referee, and that could be troublesome. Not just to take care of the match itself, but coordinating with like a stop, a person that's on the clock, or video review if there is video review,
So the best advice I got, was from Sifu Paul Vizio, one of the most successful kickboxers in the world, and quite honestly, the man responsible for my Olympic success. And what he said to me is, don't complain about the referees. He says, because once you enter the arena, you allow that person to judge you. Now, you may be a 4th, 5th degree world champion, gold medalist, whatever. This guy may be a weekend warrior, never stepped in a ring, never did whatever, but you put yourself in his hands. So the onus falls on, in one sense, it falls on us to accept that. The second part, though, is the organizations themselves that want to perpetuate better sport, better athletes, and performances need to step up and train those referees appropriately. And if they don't, then that's on them. So when you have bad refereeing, and I've seen good and bad refereeing, and we all have, Leon Preston, Grandmaster Preston, he just said something to me, which I've said to you guys before. The rule of the ring is the referee's job is to keep the game beautiful. It's his job to preserve the sanctity of the game, and that means he needs to prevent actions that make it less beautiful and promote actions that make it more beautiful. So when you're looking at it from that perspective, it's different. But the level of refereeing in the United States is lower, and the refereeing of the training of the refereeing is not terrific. Referees, as we've talked about before, are taught a million warnings. They're not taught what a point is. They're taught how to give warnings. And,
yeah, but they don't need to know what a point is. I mean, technically, they don't need to know what a point is.
Technically, they don't any longer. Technically, they don't any longer. But at the point when we were competing, they needed to know what a point was. And they had no idea because they hadn't.
I think it was better back then. I ain't gonna lie to you. When it comes to that type of stuff, identifying points, I guess my biggest thing wouldn't necessarily be about the referees. I just feel like maybe our game is so complicated in a sense of how many deductions and how many things that we have. But the understanding of what's happening and what should be happening or how something happened is just crazy to me. Like you're watching matches and you see things like it's hard to even explain. They press the wrong. Someone tries to spin and fall. They don't score the spin, but a point goes up and it's a punch point. And you're trying to explain this to them like that's not what happened, and they're telling you it's a legitimate punch, and it's like it couldn't have been. Like,
well, they don't understand the game, and the reason they don't understand the game, and this has been forever in refereeing. They didn't do the game. So an athlete's perspective and a coach's perspective and a referee's perspective are different depending upon the experience of the referee. And we talked about this, Coach Moreno and I, when we were running the program for one of the national governing bodies. We wanted to get the referees, the athletes, and the coaches in one room so they could work together to get a common understanding of what occurs. You can't, and this is truth, back in the old days when you were scoring it on paper and punches and buttons, you couldn't score it. The game is happening too fast for a person to be able to push the right button at the right time. Now with the electronic scoring, it's better and worse for different reasons, but at least it can score what they think the game is, but not the technique aspect of it. So go ahead, Coach.
I want to go back to like what you said, because I disagree when you say that the referee's job, I think I know where he's coming from, but he said the referee's job is to keep the game beautiful. I don't think so. Yeah. I really don't. I mean, I don't think in the WT, they always say to get, what are the two things they say, TJ, to make the game more friendly and dynamic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, your job is to make a fair game. That's it. If I can block for 2 minutes and then score 1 point, you might
but you know this too, right? So think about this for a second. What is the best game with reference to a referee when the referee is what?
It's non-existent. You don't even know
you don't even know he's there. You don't even know he's there. That's the best game, when the referee doesn't do anything to interfere.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, so for me, I don't think it's their job to make it beautiful. It's just to make sure that people, are fair, transparent, all that stuff. But TJ, you asked about like, certain referees and things like that. Or no, I'm sorry, Coach Young, you said that. For me, like I remember there was one referee, and I'll say him by name. And right now he's a chairman for USA Taekwondo. But John Sieber, I think when he was young and he was coming up, I enjoyed the way he refereed because I think he understood sport. Not Taekwondo. Of course, he knows Taekwondo. Sport. He knows football. He knows basketball. He knows baseball. He understands that, okay, I'm winning. I'm trying to preserve my win. You're losing. You're trying to go. So I'm not stalling. I'm defending. He's not pushing. He's trying to create. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? I think good referees understand what fighters are trying to do. I don't believe that you have to fight in the sport to be a good referee. But if you didn't fight, then you better educate yourself in other fighting sports and what people are trying to do. Because again, I know boxing and wrestling and whatever, some of these people never did the sport and they could do it at a high level. I think there's some good referees that never actually fought at a high level that could be good referees. But there's probably a lot more that haven't fought and are not so good. So John Holloway was one of my favorites back in the day when I was young coming up. And John Sieber, like I said, I just closed my eyes and I remember thinking, this guy knows what each dude is trying to do, each gal is trying to do, and he's within the rules, he's letting them do it. And then if it got out of control, hey, then I got to pop you with a deduction.
Yeah, I think that's, again, maybe I hate using the word higher quality or better understanding, but I did a lot, obviously, just like you guys, I did a lot of local tournaments when I was growing up, a lot of small ones. And for us in our area, I had also Master Bernard Robinson as well as one of the referees there. I feel like all the calls definitely didn't go my way. They definitely didn't fall in the direction. I'm like, maybe this was it. But I feel like I could understand where his call came from. And I guess that's more important for me as a coach now than as an athlete. As an athlete, everything's against you. Like, No, that wasn't it. Fine. You can believe that, but as a coach, you're sitting in a chair and you're trying to understand, how we got here, what the situation is. I don't think the referees they're not the ones at the lower levels of the game, maybe, or the volunteers, or I don't know. I would
What about
appreciate it if it
this?
was-
What about people taking responsibility? Listen, I know we're volunteers.
That's a big one.
I know we're volunteers, but you know what? If you're a coach and I'll use a good word, you mess up, you get sanctioned. Well, some people get sanctioned.
Yeah, right.
Some people can say whatever they want and they didn't get sanctioned, but that's another story for another time. A coach, I said that. If an athlete does crazy, you get sanctioned. If a referee blatantly messes up, knowingly or unknowingly, if they mess up, what happens? Like, I mean, I hear, they got sanctioned for a tournament. Stop. They're back at the next one. Matter of fact, sometimes they get elevated. But
And
that's a tough one for me.
That's my thing too. Like, I know you go to local tournaments into like I try to treat it like a learning environment, like you just said, Coach, as well. Like I know you're allowing people to judge you, and you're allowing people, if they're the third person in the hierarchy level, all those good things. So you go to local tournaments that it's just a training day. It's just a build through the championships or whatever you're gonna go to. But I think even at more so, why is it that I feel like the coaches have to take it like that and be willing to accept anything and everything that happens throughout that match. But sometimes even at the local small level, these referees are like this, and like they act like they can't explain anything to you. They don't want to talk to you, or like what you're saying could never ever make any more sense than what they think already. And that's the crazy part. When you're dealing with, you got a lot of high level coaches in a room, coach that higher levels than these kids have been at to do these little local tournaments. Like, people need to educate them on, again, I don't know if it's coaching or teaching, but just understanding the situation. There has to be value on both sides.
I got a question for you, Young. So again, because I love to talk to you now because you're really entering into, sports, some mainstream sports, obviously baseball, basketball, football, soccer, they're mainstream sports in America. So you're seeing it. So my question for you is, like, why, and I understand we're a martial art, but why? I don't think I know another sport, correct me if I'm wrong, that a coach or athlete for that matter cannot interact with the referee.
Yeah. Or it's like bad. It's viewed as bad.
Yeah.
So the problem, here's the problem.
Okay.
So the martial arts, and this started with the Koreans, the martial arts have always been a hierarchy of senior versus junior. And so when you're a senior to someone, you're older, whatever, you can't question your senior. And the problem is that in this particular sport, they want to elevate these referees that may or may not be senior, quite frankly, most of them are junior to me, to a level where they can't be talked to, talked at, talked with, because then you're disrespecting the culture of martial arts. And what we've seen in that across the board, including some things that are going on right now, is a total disregard for the athletes and the coaches and the community and the country and everything like that. It started with a hierarchy based in Asian philosophy where you don't question your elders. And unfortunately, that's not sport. That's maybe martial art, and you can accept it as such, but it's not sport. And that is the cause of that problem. In other sports like soccer, for example, maybe they go over the top, right? You'll see athletes and coaches and then the ref will warn them, stop, enough. And if they don't stop, then he'll get a card to get thrown out of the game. But the coaches and refs are human, and they need to understand that they do make mistakes. And you'll see, we all see that where they compensate for their mistakes. But this is one of the things that happens organizationally and culture-wise. It's one of the bad transfers that we've gotten. There's a lot of great transfers we've gotten of the culture and maybe some cultural appropriation, but the nationalism that resulted in this has not been great for us as a sport. The referees in a sport, and I'll say this because I've always said it, in a sport that teaches life skills and tenets of respect, humility, honesty, there's certainly a lot of that missing from the sport in terms of leadership and refereeing, right? So you see referees all the time. One of the reasons we find ourselves with electronic chest protectors is referees cheated, not made mistakes. They cheated. They cheated on behalf of countries, on behalf of schools, and you and I trying to get out of this country when we were young, we couldn't get out of this country. And why?
Yeah.
We had to beat not only the opponent in front of us, not his coach, we had to beat the system. where we were not from a particular school, we were not a particular ethnicity, we're not particular whatever, and that's a very that's a scarlet letter for our sport that continues. And Korea, by the way, had the same problem. It was outed by Lee Jung-woo, where he talked about pruning of the tree. It happened in Korean nationals. You and I have been to Korean nationals where we saw players kill another player, but he wasn't leaving the country because he wasn't, and that's why the original sport, we have another sport in Taekwondo called chair throwing and table tossing. And it's not a Gaelic sport, but you go to Korea, they started it. You'd see guys throw tables and chairs and
but they never hit each other.
No, it's a pushing.
Listen, that being said,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, T.
I was just saying, I'm not talking. I understand at those levels. I'm not even talking about like the qualifying levels or even like the state level and all that stuff like that. I guess maybe I'm overshooting and maybe I'm going local tournaments to be a little bit different when I was younger, or like understanding of the game. Even there's always extraordinary referees. There's always new referees. I don't think it's a good or bad. I think it's an experience thing. But I just find it's that one-sidedness that you were just talking about. And I think I try to find myself to be respectful. I try to start off with, try to be respectful, understand the situation that we're in, and it never fans out that way. It's
because they won't let you get offended, TJ. And I'm not saying you. People get offended when you actually have a legitimate question, and that's all you're trying to ask, or you're trying. Please explain this to me, and you're not even you're not even throwing your weight around. Hey, I'm an Olympic athlete. I'm an Olympic coach. You're just saying and then you're like,
it's not even that. Or the best one is like, will you say something to one of them and it's just like this?
Oh,
they don't even know.
Listen, my kids want to go to the Stanford event. They have a Stanford scrimmage here, and then they have, Stanford, which obviously needs money, right? But the Stanford Taekwondo program, which is, the bastard stepchild of Ken Min and his group of ne'er-do-wells. They create these events, and the kids all want to go to the Stanford event because it's Stanford, right? They don't realize that it's, who cares? But they get these referees in Stanford that are all Stanford students. And every time we went, it was horrible refereeing, terrible. So God forbid you say something to a ref. So I go up to this ref and I go, that's not the rule. And the ref kind of gives me a hard time. At that point, I'm going to put down my massive foot of, actually I'm correct and you don't know what you're talking about. And so we got to a point with the Stanford event. I don't send my people. Why? Because refereeing is terrible. And why? In part because they were taught that culture from Ken Min, where they can't be questioned and they understand the rules. And so what I do, I vote with my dollars. I don't send my kids to events where they can't referee. I don't send my kids to events where there's a hierarchy that prevents people from getting fair treatment to whatever degree. And that's the only thing we can do. And that's what I encourage people to do. If you have bad refereeing, don't go. Just don't go. Don't send your people. Now, the understanding, if you don't have enough refereeing, they're going to put 14-year-old kids hopefully in with the 5-year-olds.
That's a problem. I think that's a problem. But so I'm talking about tournaments, referees and stuff like that. What do you think about, there's something here domestically that I think is a little strange, that they're allowing people that are qualified in one category to go up to another category. I mean, again, historically, they've never done that. I mean, if you qualify in welter, you fight in welter. You qualify in light, you fight in light. This up and down and stuff like that, I think I don't really understand the rationale, but I think and I know people have said, yeah, but they're juniors and they grow. Again, then wait a year. I mean, it is what it is.
Are we talking about juniors or seniors? Sorry. What are you talking about?
To be honest, I'm talking about anybody. I mean, it is what it is. But let's just say for seniors, because really what I want to get to, that's just kind of a side. I want to get to that. There's some big names moving categories, and I wanted to know what you think their potential is when they change categories. But first, the change of the weight categories. Let's say on senior level. Let's keep it easy.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I think from what I understand, it was because the start of the quad or something like that. Some explanation that for me honestly still doesn't make sense since we started the whole rest of the year doing things a certain way. I think that's the important thing for me as a coach or as having been a high level athlete. I think we had a few more answers. Things don't change so radically that you're like, okay, now this is a go. Now this is a go. Now that's a go. Making the national team in the United States historically always, when I was competing, was a hard thing to do. It was a hard thing to do. And I think what made it even feasible for me to get there was at least the rule structure was the same. Like there were very few random changes and surprises that just flip the script on a lot of things. You know what I mean? Maybe I think you have different people with different goals. I think the organization in itself has a goal, whatever they're trying to do, and that's cool and all. But like, I think you gotta. For me, I don't like it. And again, I come from a generation where I was at nationals, and I get the team charge, and there was 2 or 3 wild cards there. But honestly, it happened, and I can get it. And it was almost the way it was written. It was justified that it could happen this way. And again, maybe did I like it? Nah, I didn't, because these are guys.
But you knew. At least you knew.
I knew, and now it's a little bit, for me, from a coaching standpoint, it's a little bit weird, because I mean, if you're not being strategical about the matches you're going to fight at team trials, and you're not really coaching, you're just hoping for it to happen, So I don't like it at all. Not one bit.
What do you think about changing like that?
Like we had it happened to me on one particular occasion, and the individual's passed away, so I won't mention his name, and it was based on a relationship he had with the national team coach and his family had. And
but it wasn't correct.
It wasn't correct. Years later, we became friends. But during that period of time, what I did, my solution, because I was capable of it, he was a welterweight. They just moved him up. He had no record in middle, barely had a record in welter, because he couldn't beat Jay Warwick, and moved up to my division. And I punished him. I punished him and sent him home, like on 2 occasions. It was the '87 Pan Am team trials. And I made sure it was very visible. I mean, back then, when matches were won 1 point, 2 points, I beat this individual 7-0, and then just punished them, and then looked over at the individual that was responsible. So I don't think it's correct. I think you got to earn your way, and people do this all the time. If you want to be in a particular weight division and you want to carry your record with you, you can't. You got to go in and make your own record. And if you want to qualify, go and qualify, step up and qualify. Now, in most situations, it proves out. So let's say you you're a welter and you move up to middle, or you move down to light. And the last time we had a big one was the first time they combined all the weight divisions. So that would have been 92, right? 92, when they combined all the divisions. The lightweights all moved. I mean, the welterweights moved, and the
no, they didn't combine the divisions. That was just the divisions that we were allotted.
Yeah, but you had to move, right? So if you went and they qualified. So if you remember, all those guys qualified. None of them got gifted in. Like lightweight was.
Yeah. They had to qualify. No, what I'm saying is, there was still 8 weight categories.
Dude, what's up with all those tattoos? Go put your arms up again there. What the hell? What the holy jeez?
This guy. Hey man, come on.
Look at that bad boy. Look, he's not moving. He's not moving his shirt. So you know what that means. Okay.
No, but let's
take this thing off.
Calm down.
No, but I know we don't have a lot of time. Let's just maybe touch a little bit on the weight categories, because there's a lot of Olympians, CJ, in 58. So, for example, Vicente Yunta from Spain, Jun Jung are moving up to featherweight. The Olympic silver and gold medalists are moving from 68 to 80. There's a couple 80s moving to heavy. Like, what do you think? Pick a division. Let's talk about real fast. I mean, I think it's kind of for me, it's really exciting. But I think good is good. I think if you're good, you're good.
I guess, did you think and again, I haven't really looked at it across the board, but do you think that the weight classes are normalizing in size again? Are we going back towards like a more athletic welterweight as opposed to a taller, linkier welterweight, and those welterweights are going up to heavyweight? Do you think that has anything to do with it at all? As far as like the switching, just from a weight standpoint first.
Yeah, I just think some people grew out of the divisions. I think some of the guys that were in there were kind of young, and they just kind of grew, whether they were 68 going to 80 or 80 going up. But listen, I still think it helps to be pretty good size, good leg length. But you're finding there's a new 58 guy from Korea. This is a short little dude. This guy can fight. I mean, this guy can fight. The 80 Korean guy, same thing. But I'm really curious to see Rashidov, the 2-time defending Olympic gold medalist in 68 from Uzbekistan, going to 80. And I'm going to call it, I don't think none of those dudes want to see him. The dude's tall. He's going to be stronger.
He's 80 tall?
He's 80 tall. He's not Simone 80 tall. He's taller than CJ. He's taller than Henrique from Brazil, or as tall. And he's longer. Listen, I think he's going to be good. I think the silver medal Zaid from Jordan will have a little harder time because he's a little undersized. But I mean, historically, people that move up don't do as well. But I think there's going to be some interesting dudes.
And who else? Who else went from? You said middle to heavy. I mean, excuse me, welter to heavy.
Thala from Jordan, he also went up. They have a hard time. Who else went? Someone else just went up. I mean, when Cisse went from welter to heavy, he had a significant impact with his speed. Oh, the Norway guy, he went from 80 to heavyweight.
I like that for him. Yeah, I like that for him.
Yeah, me too. And he only fought heavyweight during qualification for like 5 months. So I think give him a little time to put some weight on. I think that boy could be interesting.
Yeah,
he's huge. Agree. He's 6'6", 6'7".
I agree. I think for me, I'm more 3 times to do it in two different divisions will be interesting. That'll be the first time, right? From if he runs it back again at 80, he's got it. He's got to be the GOAT. He's got to be the cars. He's got to be the talk, right?
So, one of my favorite fighters. A lot of people don't know Young. You know exactly what it is. Hot Take Young.
Hot Take Young. I was about to say, yeah.
He fought flyweight and welterweight in 80 and 92, like that difference.
Yep.
And he won. He actually fought heavyweight and came back down.
He
won 2 gold medals. But in this era, this is a lot different. This guy's gonna go. First of all, there's never been history, man or female, to win 3 Olympic gold medals. Not Steven Lopez, not
Hadi.
Hadi got 2 golds. Hot Take Young got 2 golds. Wu Jin from China, 2 gold. Another Chinese welterweight, 2 golds. My mind's like I should be better at this right now. But anyway, Steven Lopez, like nobody.
Penny Pack has 2
golds.
Yeah.
2 golds.
Yeah, so, I don't know. But I mean, hands down for sure, if he runs it back in 80 and wins the whole game, he's got to be the GOAT. I don't think we have that conversation no more.
Let me put the under in right now, boy. Could be my retirement.
It's got to be. It's going to be a tough one. I think it's going to be tough, though. I think, again, I think his size was important at 68 still, too. You know what I mean? And like coming into, I would say, you said a medium to normal size, maybe about the same size. I think we'll see with the longer players if you can still be dynamic and long with them and push them back. But definitely excited to see it.
But when he fights 74, he runs the table. Easy. So I think I think he's going to, without having to lose weight, and listen, it's not going to be easy, but I think he's going to be just fine. I think he's that special dude, to be honest with you. And I also, Young, we talked about this, certain athletes, not trying to throw shade, they come along at the right time and they win at the right time. They miss some of these legends that are getting old. They miss some new guys that are coming up. And I think that welterweight division, it kind of cleared. So you got a bunch of younger athletes that aren't so dominant. And this guy is just the opposite. He's young. He's 22, 3. He won at 17 or 18, I think. I don't know what he was, but he's got to be under 25. So he's young, but he's got that swag. He's young. He's got that street cred. He's young. He's got that experience. So I don't know, man. I think he's going to be dangerous.
I'm excited to see.
The GOAT will be and always will be and will never change for me, Jungkook Young. So I'm going to apologize to all of you. You could talk about all these new guys that are foot fencing, but the most, in my opinion, the legend will continue to be Jungkook Young. The guy for me, he's the man.
Joe Rogan says, I like what he talks about. He goes, when people throw around the greatest, he's like, you got to talk about the greatest in their era.
Correct.
At that time and measure it. Because, and not when people go downhill, but like in their prime, who is the best?
Michael Tyson, Michael Jordan. Don't talk to me about, I don't want to talk about the other guy. I don't want to mention his name in that basketball stuff. In soccer, Messi. You can go back.
I'm going to ask you the tough question. Sorry, I'm going to ask you the tough question.
Yeah.
The tough question. Here we go. But if you had to, maybe it's an answer for next week, but you had to choose your favorite current Olympic style fighter right now with the foot fencing, what you call the electronic air. If you had to pick one guy that stands out to you, like, I like him because of this, he's like this, or he's like this, and what aspects about him carry over from like the old school Taekwondo to new school Taekwondo?
I want to hear Young's. I want to hear your He says foot fencing, foot fart,
foot
That's so
farting,
bad.
K
Foot fart-
pooping.
Hey,
So
pooping.
let's be clear. It's not going to change because the
Okay,
president, if the KTA had elected Kim Se-hyuk, the KTA is what wags the WT's tail. So the KTA would have created a style under.
but they didn't elect you yet, did they?
They did, and Yang Jin-ban won, and he's the
Again.
genius. He's the genius that came up with this style of fighting. So I was hoping Kim Se-hyuk won because then it would have changed. So the foot farting, K pooping, foot fencing.
But who's
dancing.
your favorite, though?
Who's your
That's
favorite?
like, don't
It's hard.
dodge my question.
I got to be
Who's your
honest.
favorite?
I got to be honest that I don't watch it.
Gotta
So
have
for
one.
me, I do have
Gotta-
one, but you're not going to like the answer. Aaron Cook would have been my guy. But that shows you how old I am. That's why when we talk about philosophy, I'm in the torchbearer light phase. I'm not in the current phase of trying to make athletes. And I give that to you guys. I have Coach Moreno in from time to time to help me so he can teach my guys to foot fencing.
I take that. I take the Aaron Cook one, but I think because he was at the end of 2012, 2013, all that stuff as well too. I think
So
the game was the game was still a little bit more.
Yeah, but here's what you
fast-paced
got to
and
ask
normal
yourself:
and a little bit more back-legged.
who was the athlete? And this is a good question. Who was the athlete that had the most potential, and you watched him and you went, "Wow," and then didn't have the best result? Like, I'm always amazed at that question. Like in the United States, Clay Barber, right? I look at Clay Barber. I look at James Viasana. These are guys that were just technically, excellent to watch. There was a kid that Coach and I saw in Hong Kong. He was from Chinese Taipei. He was a bantamweight, and he went through like 1 million people, and then he battered his legs so badly, couldn't make it to the finals. But these are the kind of guys that, with the right kind of coaching, right kind of opportunities, right time. Like, how many guys did Jungkook Young retire, like in Korea and internationally, that they couldn't get by?
We'll never know their names.
We'll never know their names. You won't know their names. And Coach Moreno too, and you. So like Steven Lopez, to his credit, vacated that division for 8 years, like, or 10, how many years he was in it. People just couldn't get through him. So and there were a lot of great
But they
fighters.
still showed up, though. They showed up. They fought him every
one of my favorite
few trials
fighters
back.
was Jason Hahn. Jason Hahn, great fighter, great technique. Just couldn't get past certain things until he moved or whatever. So,
But you know what? Listen, Jason was my roommate. I kind of mentored him. His dad asked me to look after him. He was a phenomenal athlete, but he never reached his potential because I don't think he did enough. Like he had it all, but I don't think he let go. I don't think he had that. I mean, and it's saying a lot because I have a lot of respect for him. He won a silver medal to what he had. He was maybe faster than anybody I knew, but
best fast kick I ever saw.
But you always like kind of sit there and go, what? Why does he? Man, he could do more. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so, and that's a conversation.
Those days,
it's a conversation for another. Go ahead.
No, I was about to go down memory lane. I was like, when I was on junior team, and we got a chance. They took the junior team out to OTC to train with like the senior team. It was pretty. I remember that being. He was there. I got to step with him the first day I was there. A couple other national team members, but those are cool moments too. So I actually got to see those facets, to see those shots, and see the smoothness at that level in a training setting.
That boy was fast.
Yeah, he was different. Fast. Yeah, he was different.
Listen, and Coach, you say something that really matters, and the question is, we all know these guys, the best fighter in the dojang, best fighter in the national, best whatever. But then when it comes time to perform at the highest level, they don't win. And the reason they don't win is they don't perform. And so is fighting about technique and ability and possibility? I wish it were, because that would be a different thing. Fighting's about winning and how you win and what you do when when do you show up? Right? Do you show up?
Do you guys think do you start to think winning has a different meaning than it did before? I mean, like, and I'll be honest with you, and I know you made a couple comments before, and Coach Sereno, we went to the Olympic Games to get a gold medal. We went to win the whole thing. There was no question about wanting to win the whole thing, and it didn't work out. We ended up, with the third place medal there, and obviously super proud because we put a lot of work into the process of it. But I think now with the are you willing to say, like, with the continued points? Before it wasn't no points. Before you showed up and you could get a random bracket at the World Championships. There was nothing to protect you from whatever would happen. Maybe it was like you mentioned before, the pruning of the brackets. That you couldn't be protected from none of that. You had to be good on that day no matter what. Like that was it, no matter what. But I would say, and the only fulfillment you got was winning the gold medal. There was no, I got 15 points because I got second, or I got 13 points because I got whatever it was. There was nothing to fall back on. So when you use the word winning, are you considering, or do you see it as a part of it now that maybe third place is more important in a number of competitions that we compete in now? They do 20 or 30 as opposed to the 4 or 5 in a year. Does that sway your idea? Obviously, we know what winning is. Like even me right now with the medal somewhere, my medal sitting right there. That's not the one I've wanted. That's not what I went for. I didn't win the whole thing. You know what I mean? But I know there's a lot.
But that's not what you wanted.
Nah, you know, and everybody knows that. Everyone who knows me, I've probably said it 1,000 times, millions and millions of times. But do you think, can you rationalize that winning is a little bit different now than it was then? Like, you know, like there is something that you take away something from each individual competition as far as like ranking points and being the number one in the country or the world or nation, whatever that stuff means, you know?
You're asking me?
Yeah, of course. Yes.
I'm just not the right person to ask because
You're hard.
I'm hard. I'm brutal. Like I used losing as a learning lesson and, you know, sat in a corner and cried. I only took home gold medals. I don't have a single silver or bronze medal in my house. They all were left at the event or somewhere else. I mean,
I'll show you one.
No. I would have kept that one. And that's the sole difference. You win.
There's one bronze medal.
You have to. If you win a bronze or a silver at the Olympics, that's a keeper. And I would have kept mine, to be honest. But anything else, I don't have my Pan Am. I have a Pan Am gold medal. I don't have a Pan Am silver medal. I have a Pan Am silver medal. I don't know where it is. I think it's in Cuba still. So I didn't take it home. But that's my mentality because that's where I was. Now, I will say it's different. And I'll tell you this, I don't think that I could do what people have to do to get a bronze medal at the Olympics this day.
Yeah,
I couldn't fight through it. I wouldn't have the mindset to fight through a rep or charge. I don't think I could, even if it meant points.
You would. You would have to. You would
quit and go home.
No, wait, I know what you're saying. This is not how. That's not the DNA in you. But the DNA in you would make you get up and do it. Like you couldn't. You
There's
would
no way.
somehow, some way.
There's no way.
I know
There's
what
no
you're
way.
saying, but you would change. You would
There's
switch.
no way.
TJ, I would say something. So I had a kid today. Said, man, I don't understand. He was talking about rush stop, that nobody fought him at the Olympics. Like everyone just stood there. He's like, I don't understand. If you go to the Olympics, even if you fight the best person, you should go and you should fight. Like, what do you go there for? And I just sat there and go, this kid is awesome. Like, I love that he said that. But also, making the team is not as important anymore. You know why? Because these kids got too many. Any team. Well, the Olympic team is different. I'm going to say the national team. Let's just say national team. It's not as important. You know why? Because these kids, I'll go next week and fight in Cuba. Next week, I'll go fight in Paris. Next week, I'll fight in Italy. Next week, I'll fight in Korea. They know. When we were, you didn't have shit to do. Your ass stayed home for a whole freaking year.
Yeah,
well, I didn't cry.
You didn't make the team. You didn't get out of the country. I mean, and here's the other thing, like now in this, and I mean this in defense of the athletes, it's impossible to peak. You can't peak for every event. Like I don't even understand how they do it. We used to fight. I fought every weekend when I was coming up. Every weekend we fought in a tournament. But once I got to a certain level, my coaches were like, you don't fight every weekend. You fight in 3 events a year.
Now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
it's hard now.
I don't even know how they do it, to be honest.
That's another problem with the WT. Different topic for another day. But
you guys are they're show ponies now, and they don't get a choice, you know. And you gotta, but you know, like and I said this to my wife about football the other day because they're complaining about this 49er guy that didn't get on the field. Right, an older cat didn't want to play and just walked on. Yeah. He forgot what his job was. His job, he's not an athlete, he's an entertainer. So you got to decide, are your athletes fighters or entertainers? If you're an entertainer, then you give it your best. You fight to the last minute. You fight for the bronze medal. You do all that stuff. If you're an athlete, you do what they call in sports, stand on your business. If it's not in your best interest, you don't do it. Like if I'm an athlete and I got to fight 3 weeks from now and I got to fight a bronze medal match, and I don't need it, I don't fight it. You know, it's a different thing. But I was always that guy that, you know, I fought everybody. I fought when I didn't need to fight. I welcomed the guy to come in and have another beating if he wanted, right? If I didn't need the match, right? That was just my mentality. But I wasn't Patrice Remarque. I wasn't, we didn't mention this guy in the conversation, Jimmy Kim. Jimmy in his prime, I haven't seen a heavyweight. I didn't want to fight Jimmy. I wouldn't want to fight Jimmy if I were a heavyweight. I had never seen anybody that fast and that strong and that good at what he did. So, it's a different world, different time, but the rules have changed so much. The game has changed, and then the qualifications have changed. So you are getting a different kind of an athlete. And I'm sure you're getting better athletes. I'm not sure you're getting better fighters.
Well, listen, going to Jim, I mean, we should probably wrap this up. But Jimmy was an icon, and Jimmy was a special person. Like, from everything he did, from technically to power to speed to running to jumping to lifting weight, he was an icon. He was unique, and there's just a certain group of people that saw him do that. And, I was lucky to see his final competition, and just a special man. Love the guy.
Yeah.
Love him.
Well, this has been the Warehouse 15, and it's been longer than 15, but that's not what the 15 stands for. And you have had the pleasure and maybe privilege of listening to TJ, as he wants to be called today, Coach Moreno.
Third place.
I didn't. I'm not
bronze TJ.
I'm not saying.
Bronze TJ. That's what name. Bronze TJ.
I have bronze medals. I don't know where they are, but I have them. Trust me, I have them, and I'm proud of them. I think I won them in some big events. So, but there's nothing wrong with a bronze. It matches the beautiful tint you have on your face today of the purple light, and where is the Batman?
Ambience.
And then
for my mama.
And then we got Coach Moreno, and this has been Herb Perez. I want to thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back next week, and only better and bigger.